Welcome. Dave Stevens here at the Dave Stevens Show. This is the Dave Stevens Show, but I've got a soccer legend. You know, it's called football. We are here at the Super Bowl, and internationally it is football, but I am here with a Hall of Famer, a legend. I grew up watching him battle Tony Meola for spots and everything. So Kasey Keller joining us. Kasey, thanks for being here for a little bit on Radio Row.
Yeah, nice to be here.
And so you are here again. People, if you don't remember, go back and Google. This guy had so many clean sheets. I think you had the record for clean sheets.
Yeah.
Clean sheets means it's a shutout.
Yeah.
All saves, and
you got to be careful when you move to England and you say shutout, and then they get a little chuckle, and then they're like, "Oh no, it's a clean sheet."
I'm thinking, you want clean sheets. You don't want to wake up with your sheets not clean, right?
Not clean. So yes.
So you are here today, and again, this is very near and dear to my heart because I lost both of my parents to cancer. You were recently, I don't know how long ago, diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is scary, but it's your battle, and you personally attacked it.
Yep. So when I moved home from Europe, I played 17 years in Europe, and then I moved home in 2009 with the Seattle Sounders in MLS. I signed a 2-year contract. At the end of those 2 years, I was in my early 40s, and there's not a lot of pros playing at 40. So we kind of just decided that after that 2 years, we'd see where I was, we'd see where the club was, and then we'd kind of decide on if we were going to go forward. And things were going really well. I was feeling well. Everything was good. So we more or less agreed for a 1-year extension. But I was having a little problem with my hip at the end of the season. And so I said, look, before I sign the contract, I just want to make sure that it's nothing serious with my hip. So go get the MRI, finish the MRI around lunchtime. My wife and I go get something to eat, get a phone call from the team doc around 2:00. And he says, hey, just wanted to tell you, your hip looks okay. What we would expect from a 41-year-old who'd played 700 matches in 19 seasons. But I have a question for you. Have you had lunch yet? I said, Doc, I've had a lot of MRIs. Nobody's ever asked me if I had lunch yet afterwards. He said, well, we saw something on the MRI, and if you hadn't had lunch yet, we wanted you to go back to the hospital and have a biopsy. I said, well, I had lunch. Okay, you're scheduled for 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. You're like, oh, yeah, that's probably not good. So then waited the 3-4 days for pathology to come back and confirmed that I had non-Hodgkin's. Sat down with the oncologist, and he said, look, this is my suggestion. He'd say, we didn't find this because you're symptomatic. We found it because of something else. So I suggest we just monitor it and we see what happens. I said, okay. But I didn't feel, they said, look, you don't have to tell anybody. I said, yeah, but I just don't feel comfortable signing a new contract without telling the club. So I met with the owner. I met with the guy that ran the club together and said that this had happened, and I don't know what's going to happen with this season. So started the season. And so because of that, we then elected to tell nobody. Like I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell my kids, because it was kind of that idea of you never knew how long it was going to be. Was it going to be 8 days, 8 weeks, 8 months, 8 years, no idea when that needed to start. So started preseason, had a little test when I got back from preseason to see if I could start the season. Had a little test halfway through the season to see if I could finish the season. Retired in my own terms, MLS best 11, had a great final way to kind of bow out after a 20-year career. Went into the broadcast business, and it was around 2017 in the fall. A lot of us ex-pros, when you're no longer going through the workout regimen, maybe you gain a little weight. I said, I gotta pick up the pace here a little bit. My suits are fitting a little too tight for the broadcast.
Not a clean sheet.
Not a clean sheet. It was so then as I started to work out a little harder, started to lose some weight, started to lose some more weight, and then just kind of went, no, this is too easy. So around February finally came in 18, came to a head where I'm getting out of the shower and my wife just shakes her head. The lymph nodes in my groin looked like they were going to come through my skin. She's like, you got to go see the doctor. I'm like, okay. So meet with the doctor, come to the conclusion, yeah, it's time to start treatment. And, what I was fully expecting to be this very simple, okay, we'll do it. Doctor's going to tell me, these are the best results he's ever seen and all this kind of stuff. And it wasn't the case. It was really, really complicated. And so I went years and in multiple treatment after multiple treatment of no success to some success to really good success halfway through the treatment to then reversing by the end of the treatment. And so then after 13 different treatments, I have a treatment called Breyanzi from Bristol Myers Squibb, and that's who I'm partnering with to spread awareness for this drug. That after all these setbacks, after everything, I have a CAR T cell therapy called Breyanzi, which if you don't know CAR T's pretty cutting edge. So you have apheresis where they spin your blood, they take out the T cells. The T cells go to a lab, they get engineered, and then the infusion comes, you get the one-time infusion back of your own T cells, which then are engineered to hunt the cancer. And I went from non-successful to non-successful. After a month, I was in remission, and after 3 months, I was declared NED, which is no evidence of disease. And that was in 2021. And so to go from, like I said, this wild journey of, playing after the diagnosis to then having this time where I didn't need treatment to having, difficult treatment after difficult treatment to then to find the thing that worked in the end.
Well, thank God. Yeah. And was there a point you had to tell people? Did they notice what's going on, Dad?
Well, when I started treatment the first time was when I told the kids and told my parents and kind of went that side of it. In 2020, I was starting a chemo that was really hardcore. It was a 96-hour continual drip. And kind of right as I started this was when COVID really hit and the world kind of shut down. So they moved that treatment, which was a 5-day inpatient. They didn't want, halfway through my first treatment, it was when they shut down the hospitals. And so then they decided that they were going to do this outpatient. So I would go to the hospital, I would get a 24-hour bag of chemo in a fanny pack with a pump. And then every day I would go back at the time and get a new bag of chemo. And well, at this stage, the MLS's back tournament was starting in Orlando. And so we were calling the games for local radio out of the Lumen Field broadcast booth. And I actually called a match during the MLS's back tournament while connected to chemo. So yeah, you kind of do those crazy things. Just, if you go through something like this, to try to keep any level of normalcy just helps in the whole process, where you're not sitting there feeling sorry for yourself and you're like, I take that kind of that scene from Liar Liar where Jim Carrey beats himself up because he doesn't want to go into court. And then at the very last minute, the judge asks him, well, can you proceed? And he's like, yeah. And I always kind of felt that way. So yeah, do I feel bad with everything that's going on? But yeah, I can feel bad at Lumen Field calling this game just as easy as I can feel bad in my house. So, and it actually, with that purpose of doing something and interacting and doing things, always just kind of helped that little bit.
Well, I can't even imagine. And I'm sure there were highs and low points, but when you are actually faced with your own mortality as an athlete that always wins and that you can fight and build your body up, what were you dealing with that mentality?
I think it was is there's a couple things that they say. They always say, look, there's only so many things you can control, and there's no point in worrying about something that's out of your control. Easier said than done, obviously. But the other side of it is the old adage for a pro player in a team sport. There's only two things that you can truly control: your effort and your attitude. Get your attitude right, first of all. And then the effort for me was having that relationship with your medical support team, being that advocate for yourself. The doc would say stuff to me, okay, this didn't work, and we've got these couple options and all that. And I would tease him because I would just go, look, I let my medical license lapse, so I'm going to lean a little heavy on you on what direction you think we're going to go here. I think one of the things that was interesting that I didn't realize is a lot of times they like to kind of push you toward a clinical trial. And you would think that, because they want you to be a guinea pig, they want you this. But it really is it's more to the point where he said to me, if this is FDA approved, we can always go to that. This might be the next big thing. And funny enough, at Brianzi, I missed the clinical trial, just missed the clinical trial. And if I hadn't had at least some relative success with different treatments, I don't know if I would have had the time to get around to when it was FDA approved to finally put me into remission. So yeah, be that. Also ask questions, always work with your doctor. Don't just accept. Kind of be an advocate for yourself and for your treatment. And obviously I had a great support system. My wife was brilliant, and friends and family and everything. So that made a huge difference as well.
Well, we're glad it worked. And is this drug available? Do other doctors in Connecticut know about it and all that? Okay, so the drug again is Brianzi.
So go to
Brianzi.com
and Bristol Myers Squibb and talk to your if you or someone talk to your doctor about it and see if it's right for you.
All right, let's talk a little football. I mean, soccer. Well, we'll do a little both. He's representing Seattle because you've lived there so long. He has a street named after him. Did you ever think you'd have your own street?
That was kind of interesting when the developer kind of contacted me and said, "Hey, we're building this." He was a big soccer fan. He's building this area that was pretty close to our family farm and where I went to high school and in Lacey. And he said, "Would you be cool if we named it?" I said, funny enough, my great-grandfather was county commissioner in the area, and so a lot of the streets are named after my family and friends in the area, and family friends and their farms in the area. So I was like, I'd be honored. And it is a little embarrassing when you drive by it at times. So.
You take your picture with the sign behind.
I will have. Early on, I had friends and family take a picture and send it to me, which I thought was pretty funny.
All right, let me put you on the spot.
Okay.
What the hell's wrong with the U.S. soccer team? The men's.
Well, they're moving, thankfully, in a much better direction the last couple camps. And it was frustrating for those of us that, our job is to talk about it, it's so hard to be able to you don't want to be just negative, but then the results and just everything kind of coming out of the team was nothing but negative. And then the last couple camps, there was a change. And what that change was, I'm not sure. But it was nice to start to talk about hope and getting into the World Cup and not be thinking, oh boy, this is going to be a disaster. To, hey, I think we could be okay here.
But we don't. It seems like the team, is kind of in anonymity with the women's team, always surpassing them. But we don't have the names that we talk about of the Miolas, the Landon Donovans, the Lawlesses, those guys. So how do we develop that so we could compete and get at least through a couple of rounds?
I think one of the tricky parts was, and I'll give you an example. Like my daughter's 28. My daughter grew up in England, Spain, and Germany. She didn't move. They were sixth grade when they moved home. There wasn't a girls' youth soccer team in England, Spain, or Germany for my daughter to play on. So we were, I was Seattle Sports Star of the Year award a couple years ago. I spoke, in kind of the the celebration of 50 years of Title IX. And I kind of told this story. I said, our women were so far ahead in just societal on their ability to play sports. And so the women were ahead. The rest of the world's starting to catch up, where we were the opposite. I played for clubs that were founded in the 1880s. Right? So we were the opposite. We were the guys that were trying to catch up to the rest of the world. And you just don't understand how singular soccer is to the rest of the world. We're so used to Super Bowl's over, and then we'll get excited about the NBA, and then baseball rolls around, and then MLS is starting, and hockey's going on, and no, it's soccer or it's soccer or it's soccer.
I know you got to get out here in a second, but your thoughts about this Super Bowl and the American football? I mean, I know who you're rooting for.
I was at 14 at the Super Bowl, and I'm hoping it looks a lot more like 13 than 14.
All right. Hall of Famer, legend, star, but no relation to Helen Keller, correct?
She was talking about a legend, but no, not that I know of. Yeah.
All right, Kasey, and that tell us again where they can find this drug or talk to their doctor if you do have it.
Yeah, BrionziWithin.com, Bristol Myers Squibb. So it's CAR T cell therapy.
All right. The one thing that you would hate to hear if you were playing would be that the announcer going, "Goal!" Does that hurt?
Unless I was watching it from the other side.
Right,
yes.
Brother. Thank you so much. Congratulations and continued success.
Will do.
All right. That's Kasey Keller. He's going to hop out of here and go talk about such an amazing drug. See, we do make improvements in medical technology.
A lot.
All right. So check you out later. Didn't recognize him with a hat, but he is still a legend. And you get those legends here all day long at Radio Row. This is the Dave Stevens Show. Thanks again to our sponsors, Serendipity Yachts and Cruises. We wouldn't be here without you. My friends at iTattoo, and of course, Cali Strong, one of the best clothing brands out there. I'm Dave Stevens. Watch the commercials, support the show, or watch us on your home TV on Roku. We'll check you out. We don't know what star is coming up next. I'm Dave Stevens.